Welcome to my library, dear guest. My name is Cole, and I will be your storyteller. Today, I have 3 stories prepared for you. They are NSFW, so if you do not wish to listen to that, I completely understand. You can click off now, and instead watch one of my safe for work ones. Now, let us begin with the story of the Paladin who bought catgirl slaves. Story number 1. Creepy player brags about trying to become a cop and tries to have a harem. By the author, Urethra Puncher. Wish I was kidding. We started a new group on Discord. No one really knew each other besides I and the GM. We had 4 players. 1 girl played a ranger, and 3 guys who played Paladin, a rogue, and a wizard, which will be referenced by their classes. First session was about to start when I noticed Paladin and Ranger in the call already. I hop in about to say hi when I overheard, "I really support girls who sell pictures of their feet, you know? Takes a lot of confidence." Not a peep from Ranger. I say, "Hi peeps." Paladin laughs it off, saying, "Just kidding." Rest of the group jumps in. As DM was about to speak, Paladin then brags, "Man, I applied to be a cop. I'll have to step away from the game for training, but I am excited I'm going to be able to kill legally." A frightening silence occurred. "Come on, guys, I'm only kidding." With, and welcome, from the DM, the game was underway. Rest of the session was fine. New people and introducing us. Then talking about the campaign, a mini session 0, and ended with a bit of tavern scene for RP. It ended with Paladin speaking up. "Hey, before we head out of town, let's find a slave market." DM replied, "Well, you don't know if there is one, but you might be able to find out if you go through the black market. But we will end this session here." I found out from DM that Paladin asked how many NPC slaves he could buy. DM was shocked by this. He has experience, has played for about 8 years, and he always had to deal with freeing slaves, not owning them. After some talk and reassurance from the Paladin that this isn't sexual, he said too. Next session we all assist the Paladin as our characters think he is going to break up the ring and free the slaves. We find the slave house. Rogue tells us a plan of sneaking in, ambushing them, and then freeing the slaves. Paladin stops in his tracks immediately. "No, I want to buy them." Then we look at each other like, what's going on? We try to stop the Paladin, but he walks right in and announces our presence, even proclaiming to the guards there are people attempting to free the slaves outside. After guards start pouring out, we run away, leaving the Paladin. DM starts 2 different voice channels and speaks to each group separately. Paladin shows up a little while later at the tavern with 2 tabaxi girl slaves, collared and all. In this setting, slavery isn't technically illegal, but super frowned upon. Rogue fires off. "What the fuck? You're a Paladin!" He's like, "Yeah, so what? Oath of vengeance, now leave me be. Get me in the morning, gotta break these slaves in." Mind you, the ranger was pretty quiet most of the session. She spoke up, saying, "That's pretty messed up. I don't want to play with this group if this is how you act." Paladin screams, "This is a fantasy game. Stop taking it seriously." Then I speak up. "You need to relax, but this is pretty fucked, man. We wanted a friendly hero-esque game. This isn't right. When DM cuts me off. GM drags Paladin away and they have a private convo. Rogue, Ranger, and I talk about this, if this is stopping or if we're not playing. Ranger mentions how a Paladin repeatedly DMs her, trying to get her to RP out of game. She never replied. We see Paladin drop out of the call and leave the server. DM says he is gone, said he isn't playing with a bunch of vanillas. We breathe a sigh of relief. We still don't know how he got back into the server. A couple days later, he comes in screaming that he failed his cop exams because we stressed him out. Call us an essay of profanities and left once again. Thank God he won't be a cop. Okay, so, in itself, being a paladin doesn't mean that you have to be a good guy. I know some people think so, but personally, I believe that could not be further from the truth. No class limits you to being evil, good, or in between. That's just stupid. So in itself, the paladin wanting to buy slaves wouldn't necessarily be out of character. However, that is separate from... was this discussed? I don't think it was. I somehow doubt the paladin told the rest of the group. I am going to be evil, by the way, just so you know. This seemed to come pretty out of nowhere for the rest of the group who wanted to be heroes. On the topic of evil characters, by the way, I think it's totally fine if you want to play them. But maybe if you don't know your party super well at that point, you should let them know in case you plan on playing them as openly antagonistic. Usually people do go into the game thinking they will be heroes. And if they're not prepared, or if you don't know if they can deal with those things, it may unnecessarily complicate things. That all aside, ayo. And of course it had to be Tabaxi women in collars. We will move on to the next story. Story number 2. Weeb likes my character a little too much. By the author... I have no idea how to pronounce this. R. Nunes the 21. My apologies. This happened like 3 years ago, so the details are a little blurry. It was a game of Shadowrun. For those who haven't heard of that game, it's basically cyberpunk mixed with D&D. It's a future setting, but with different races like elves, dwarves, etc. And also with magic. I had played the video game before and was eager to try the role-playing game with this new group. The campaign was already started and the rest of the players knew each other, I think. So, my character was a cool orc bodyguard, with a shotgun and a leather jacket. I made him a tank, and he was hired to protect a member of this party, because she had valuable information. The other players aren't that important, but to give a little more context, I'll explain that one was an 11-year-old child with a sniper rifle, and the other was an adult doctor, which was married to the character I had to protect, the antagonist of this horror story. Remember the married part. The problem character in question was, and I kid you not, a little anime girl with fox ears and breasts larger than her own head. That was how the player described her, and yes, of course it was a dude. I don't know how old this guy is. It was an online game. At the time, I didn't know much about anime, so I just thought the group was weird, but I stayed for the rest of the session because I really wanted to try the system. It was very weird. The 11-year-old with a sniper was very edgy, and the couple made me cringe every 2 minutes with their romantic role-playing. It seems that they liked my voice or how I described my character. Because at the end of the session, the lolly player said he was handsome and that stuff, and asked to roll for seduction. I said that my character was not interested, and he told me I would have to roll higher than his character. Which couldn't happen because of course he had max charisma, seduction, or whatever the stat was. So he rolled a ton of dice that of course I could not surpass. I told the DM my character isn't an NPC he can control with seduction checks. DM told me the same thing as the player did. I couldn't resist because his roll was too high. So he proceeded to describe how both characters entered the bedroom and called the session there. Hey, at least he faded to black. Oh, and of course the doctor was okay with this. In fact, all the players were. Everybody said goodbye, and the next day I messaged the DM telling him I wouldn't come back. He told me it was a shame because everyone at the table liked me and my character. The audacity. P.S. Some other details I just remembered are that the lolly character was also a sex worker, what a surprise, and the player had a very strange fixation on Eevee, the Pokemon. Persuasion, seduction, whatever the hell have you, does not work that way. It doesn't for NPCs, and it especially doesn't for PCs. There are contested checks, like if you try to lie to somebody, you roll deception against insight, for example. But never ever should you have to roll for you fall in love with this character or you want to have sex with this character. You cannot be brainwashed by a simple persuasion roll, and I really dislike when people make it amount to that. Just like an NPC I've never met before will not sacrifice themselves for you no matter how good your check is, you cannot force another player character to just fall in love with you. And that is ignoring that creepy lolly thing. Look, I am a weeb. I like my anime, I like my manga, and my JRPGs. And like many others, I despise this character archetype. Like, Fire Emblem, I love you so much, but you are a big, big part of the problem. Fox Lolly Girl, I felt like I'd seen that before. And what I found was this. And of course, her age was over 800 years old. I am tired, but at least I found a thumbnail. Now, let's get to the last story. Story number 3. The time I killed my team as a player, but wasn't the horror story. By the author, Ome Quicksilver. Content warning for sexual assault and enslavement of a PC. This story takes place back in the heyday of 3.5, in my 3rd ever campaign, and 2nd campaign in this group of friends. I was playing a female elf druid, and the rest of the party were all guys. An elven rogue, a human barbarian, and a dwarf cleric. We were all friends and guys IRL. At this point in the campaign, we were working for a lawful, neutral, theocratic kingdom to sabotage the fleet of an invading nation. We had found some pirates to smuggle us over, but unfortunately, due to having to res the rogue and barbarian last adventure, we were a little light on funds. So the barbarian and rogue had a brilliant idea. Just have my characters sleep with the pirate crew and get us a place on board. Naturally, my reaction was, what the fuck, and I refused. pointing out that, while it would take longer, we could easily sneak in through the mountains undetected. Well, the barbarian and rogue didn't want to do that, and the discussion turned into them jumping my character that night. I nearly killed them, gotta love the harm spell, before being subdued and knocked out, and my animal companion died. Thus, they dragged me to the pirate ship as payment. So I was fuming out of character at them and the DM, sitting there in the hold while they got to play on the pirate ship, until it was attacked by a kraken. Now my druid was the only offensive spellcaster in the group, as the cleric was mostly healbot/tank. So it didn't take long before the pirate NPCs were dead, and the kraken was smashing the ship, freeing my druid. The others were relieved. Finally, some magical firepower. I announced my character wild-shaped into her air elemental form and left them there. The silence at the table was deafening until the DM asked if I was sure. I said I was. So the combat continues and the rest of the party goes down with the ship and dies to the kraken. Thus ended the campaign. Needless to say, everyone was pissed. The party at me for leaving them to die, the DM for how that ended the campaign. I fired back that the DM allowed PvP and for my character to be raped by pirates, and the other PCs had sold her into sexual slavery to pay for a boat ride. Leaving them to their fate was perfectly in character and justifiable. She had no personal attachments to the kingdom to keep her with such a group, and I had no reason to want to continue the campaign with how mad I was at all of them. They had made the bed they died in. The group didn't play D&D for a while after that. When the next campaign started up, I sat it out. We remained friends and I did come back for the campaign after that, once I was sure the others had matured past using rape as a solution/plot device. It has been years, so that's tempered my anger over it to bemusement. But I still can't wrap my head around how any of them thought this would not end badly in one way or another. Honestly, this was a great read. Just the purest form of instant karma I have ever seen in these stories. I have to wonder though, just like the author does, what did they expect? You sold me to be a sex slave for a boat ride. Now let me save your lives. It's all good. Honestly, completely deserved. I would say I feel empathy for the DM here, but they let this go on. They let the other players knock her out and sell her to that pirate captain. Are you kidding me? Hell no. I am happy to hear that these guys seem to have matured though, really. It has a good ending, and honestly, just imagining their faces as the author reveals they will leave them to die, amazing. Much like them, I do not understand how they thought this would end well for them, but now they seem to know better. Good for all of them. Now, having finished today's reading, let us move on to today's exhibition journal, where I display the fan art you make for this channel. Today's featured artist is Juniper, who made this adorable portrait of me. You guys really have an knack for making me look fluffy, and I am far from complaining. Look at this, it looks like cotton candy, that's so adorable. Thank you so much for your fan art, Juniper. Their socials are displayed on screen. If you wish to submit any art of your own, you can do so by sending it to my email linked in my About section, or my Discord server, the link to which is in the description below. All this being said and done, I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and that I will see you again soon. For there are always more stories to be shared.